1.5 The Necklace. Talking about myself. Write a few lines about yourself, your name, appearance, family, the place where you live, your school, your friends, neighbors, relatives, your likes, dislikes, hobbies, what you are good at, etc. Now create an imaginary persona for yourself. It can be quite different from your real self, or you may choose a fictional character, a character from a novel, story, etc. Write a few lines about this imaginary persona and introduce yourself in that role. Real self, imaginary persona. Hi, I am. Hi, I am. My dream position. My dream position. What it is. Its appearance, color, shape, size, etc. Where you saw it first. Its use. What you would do to get it. Why you want it so much, how you would use it, whether you would share it with others, what you would use it for. The Necklace. This story is about the Matilda and her husband, about her birth and early lifestyle, about her wish. Matilda was a pretty and charming girl, born, as if by an error of fate, fortune, into a family of clerks. She had no means of becoming known, understood, loved or be wedded, married, to an aristocrat, VIP, and so she let herself be married to a minor official at the Ministry of Education. She dressed plainly, simply, because she had never been able to afford anything better. She suffered endlessly, without end, feeling she was entitled, permitted, to all the luxuries of life. She suffered because of her shabby, dirty, poorly furnished house. All these things, that another woman of her class would not even have noticed, tormented, tortured her and made her resentful, angry. She dreamed of a grand, palatial, lavish mansion, with vast rooms and inviting smaller rooms, perfumed for afternoon chats with close friends. Yet, she had no rich dresses, no jewels, nothing, and these were the only things she loved. She wanted so much to charm, to be envied, be jealous of, to be sought, wanted, after. She had a rich friend, a former schoolmate at the convent, whom she avoided visiting, because afterwards she would weep, discharge, with regret, shame, despair, hopelessness, and misery, unhappiness. One evening her husband came home with an air of triumph, success, holding a large envelope in his hand. "Look," he said, "here is something for you." She tore open the paper and drew out a card, on which was printed the words, "The Minister of Education and me, Georges Ramponneau, request the pleasure of M and me Loisel's company at the ministry, on the evening of Monday, January 18th. Instead of being delighted, happy, as her husband had hoped, wanted, she threw the invitation on the table resentfully, convincingly, and muttered, whispered, "What do you want me to do with that? And what do you expect me to wear if I go?" He hadn't thought of that. He stammered, paused, "Why, the dress you go to the theatre, drama, in. It seems very nice to me." He stopped, stunned, shocked, distressed, worried, to see his wife crying. He stuttered, in soft voice, "What's the matter? Let's see, Matilda. How much would a suitable dress cost?" She thought for a moment, computing, figuring the cost, and also wondering what amount she could ask for without an immediate refusal. At last she answered hesitantly, nervously, "I don't know exactly, but I think I could do it with 400 francs. He turned a little pale, soft, because he had been saving that exact amount to buy a gun for a hunting summer, in the country near Nanterre, with a few friends. "However," he said, "very well, I can give you 400 francs. But try and get a really beautiful dress." The day of the party drew near, and Madame Loisel seemed sad, restless, nervous, anxious, worried, though her dress was ready. One evening her husband said to her, "What's the matter? You have been acting strange these last 3 days." She replied, "I'm upset that I have no jewels, not a single stone to wear. I would rather not go to the party." "You could wear flowers," he said. "They are very fashionable at this time of year." She was not convinced, completely sure of something. The next day she went to her friend's house and told her of her distress, sorrow. Madame Forestier went to her mirrored wardrobe, a large cupboard, took out a large box, brought it back, opened it, and said to Madame Loisel, "Choose, my dear." First Matilda saw some bracelets, then a pearl necklace. She tried on the jewelry in the mirror. She kept asking, "You have nothing else?" "Why, yes. But I don't know what you like." Suddenly she discovered, in a black satin box, a superb diamond necklace, and her heart began to beat with uncontrolled desire. Her hands trembled, shivered, as she took it. She fastened, clipped it around her neck and stood lost in ecstasy, great happiness, as she looked at herself. Then she asked anxiously, eagerly, hesitating, undecided, "Would you lend me this, just this?" "Why, yes, of course." She threw her arms around her friend's neck, rapturously, expressing great pleasure or enthusiasm, then fled, run away from a place, with her treasure. The day of the party arrived. Madame Loisel was a success. She was prettier, attractive in a delicate way without being truly beautiful, than all the other women, elegant, graceful and stylish in appearance or manner, gracious, smiling, and full of joy. She danced wildly, in a way that lacks discipline, with passion, strong and barely controllable emotion, forgetting everything in the triumph, a great victory or achievement, of her beauty and success, floating, suspended, in a cloud of happiness. Matilda and her husband left at about 4 o'clock in the morning. When they were finally in the street, they could not find a cab. They walked down toward the Seine, till they found one. They were dropped off at their door in the Rue des Martyrs, and sadly, it was all over, for her. In front of the mirror, she took a final look at herself in all her glory. But suddenly she uttered, with one's voice, a cry. She no longer had the necklace round her neck. "What is the matter?" asked her husband. She turned towards him, panic-stricken, very frightened. I no longer have Madame Forestier's necklace." He stood up, distraught, very worried and upset. "What? How? That's impossible." They looked in the folds of her dress, in the folds of her cloak, in her pockets, everywhere. But they could not find it. "Are you sure you still had it on when you left the hall?" he asked. "Yes. I touched it in the hall at the ministry. But if you had lost it in the street we would have heard it fall. It must be in the cab." "Yes. That's probably it." "Did you take his number?" "No." They stared at each other, stunned, so shocked that one is temporarily unable to react. At last Loisel put his clothes on again. "I'm going back," he said, "over the whole route we walked, and see if I can find it." He left. She remained in her ball dress all night, her mind blank. Her husband returned at about 7 o'clock. He had found nothing. He went to the police, to the newspapers to offer a reward, to the cab companies, everywhere the tiniest, very small, glimmer, shine faintly with a wavering light, of hope led him. She waited all day, in despair at this frightful, serious, disaster, a sudden accident. Loisel returned in the evening, a hollow, having a whole, pale, light in color, figure. He had found nothing. "You must write to your friend," he said. "Tell her you have broken the clasp of her necklace and that you are having it mended, something that is broken or damaged. It will give us time to look some more." She wrote as he dictated. At the end of 1 week they had lost all hope. And Loisel, who suddenly looked aged, of a specified age, declared, "We must consider how to replace the jewel." And so, they went from jeweler to jeweler, looking for a necklace like the other one, consulting their memories, both sick with grief, intense sorrow, especially caused by someone's death, and anguish, severe mental or physical pain or suffering. In a shop at the Palace Royal, they found a string of diamonds which seemed to be exactly what they were looking for. It was worth 40,000 francs. They could have it for 36,000. So they begged the jeweler not to sell it for 3 days. And they made an arrangement that he would take it back for 34,000 francs if the other necklace was found before the end of February. Loisel had 18,000 francs which his father had left him. He would borrow the rest. And he did borrow. He gave notes, made renous, negative and unhelpful agreements, dealt with every type of moneylender. Then he went to get the new necklace, and laid down on the jeweller's counter 36,000 francs. When Madame Loisel took the necklace back, Madame Forestier said coldly, "You should have returned it sooner. I might have needed it." From then on, Madame Loisel knew the horrible life of the very poor. But she played her part heroically, in an admirably brave. The dreadful, causing or involving great suffering, fear, or unhappiness, extremely bad or serious, debt must be paid. She would pay it. They dismissed their maid, they changed their lodgings, they rented a garret, a top floor, under the roof. She came to know the drudgery, hard dull work, of housework, the odious, extremely unpleasant, labors of the kitchen. She washed the dishes, the dirty linen, she carried the garbage down to the street every morning, and carried up the water, stopping at each landing to catch her breath, and dressed like a commoner. She had to bargain at markets, quarrel and face insults over every miserable sou, a very small amount of money. Each month they had to pay some loans, renew others, get more time. Her husband worked extra, every evening, doing accounts for a tradesman, and often, late into the night, he sat copying a manuscript, a book, document, or piece of music written by hand rather than typed or printed, at 5 sous a page. And this life lasted 10 years. At the end of 10 years they had paid off everything, even the interest. Madame Loisel looked old now. Often, she brooded, think deeply about something that makes one unhappy, angry, or worried, over the past. What would have happened if she had not lost that necklace? How strange life is, how fickle, changing frequently. How little is needed for one to be ruined, collapse, or saved. One Sunday, as she was walking in the Champs-Élysées, suddenly she saw Madame Forestier, still young, still beautiful, still charming. Madame Loisel felt emotional. Should she speak to her? Yes, of course. And now that she had paid, she would tell her all. Why not? She went up to her. Good morning, Jean. The other, astonished to be addressed so familiarly by this common woman, did not recognize her. She stammered, speak with sudden involuntary pauses and a tendency to repeat the initial letters of words. But madam, I don't know. You must have made a mistake. No, I am Matilda Loisel. Her friend uttered a cry. Oh, my poor Matilda, how you have changed. Yes, I have had some hard times since I last saw you, and many miseries, a state or feeling of great physical or mental distress or discomfort, and all because of you, me. How can that be? You remember that diamond necklace that you lent me to wear to the ministry party? Yes. Well, I lost it. What do you mean? You brought it back. I brought you back another exactly like it. And it has taken us 10 years to pay for it. It wasn't easy for us. We had very little. But at last it is over, and I am very glad. Madame Forestier was stunned. You said that you bought a diamond necklace to replace mine. Yes, you didn't notice then. They were very similar. And she smiled with proud and innocent, not guilty of a crime or offense, pleasure. Madame Forestier, deeply moved, took both her hands. Oh, my poor Matilda. Mine was an imitation. It was worth 500 francs at most. Adapted from The Necklace by Guy de Maupassant.